Thank you for having me. I'm hoping to scare the pants off today. Anyway, you've already heard the business side of this, so I'll tell you the important stuff. I just completed my 10 years in Rotary. I'm a member of the Downtown San Jose Rotary Club. I'm on 5 committees, believe it or not, 3 with San Jose and 2 with our district. Just recently, I'm one of those committees is the Public Image Committee for our whole district, where I got to review everyone's social media sites for all the clubs and give feedback. So yeah, I'm kind of Rotary crazy. Anyway, anything else on there that's interesting? Not really.
Well, what do you think about our website?
Oh, I believe me, I saw so many of them, I can't remember what I scored them, but it is what it is. Let's see if I can wake you guys up a little bit. Okay, we'll cut that. But that's kind of the theme today. Who's watching you? You are now, where you travel to, your age, your birth date, your friends, your likes, your dislikes, the ads you click, even if they're naughty, you know, the sites you go to, and much, much more. So this is a highly valuable company that considers your data important. What do we think the hackers might think about your data? Because the hacking business is all about monetizing the opportunity, which is, of course, you. So this topic today is why your cell phone may have already been hacked. So why are cell phones hacked? Well, today they are largely hacked for information. So we're not getting ransomware or people extorting money out of us on our phones yet. So today, they're going to be reading your text messages. They're going to be tracking your phone calls. They'll be collecting your passwords. They're doing a lot of location tracking, seeing where you're going. Accessing your targets, your phone's microphone and camera. In fact, we actually had a laptop, this is about 6 years ago now, that got stolen. And since Barbara knows about our software, we used our software where we support the machines to turn on the camera so we could find out, hey, where the laptop was and get a picture of the thief, which we gave to the police and they recovered the laptop. So I can do that. And I'm not near as well funded as these hacker groups. So they also want to harvest information from your apps. So if they hack your phone, they get access to all your apps and all the data that's on those apps. So tomorrow it will be all about ransom and extortion, which is how the hackers handle businesses today. But most people don't realize how easy it is to get into one's phones. When we're thinking about cell phones, the first way that hackers used to get in, and they still do it today, was via hacking software. Usually what they would do is put out some app that seemed interesting. Oh, I've got a phone that makes an app that I hold in front of my face that makes a little funny face or something. In reality, in the background of the app that I'm mentioning, it was a backdoor to everything on your phone. So for years, a lot of the apps we would get from Apple and Google's Play Store, they looked like something, but in reality, they were designed as something else. So my picture here is the Trojan horse, which was supposed to be a gift, but it had a nasty aftertaste inside. So next one is phishing. Anybody in the audience know what phishing is? Phishing is when they send you a message and they're trying to trick you into doing something else. Spear phishing, you may have heard about, is when it's very targeted messages going to an individual and they're trying to do the same thing. I have a slide after this and I'll show you some examples of phishing that I got just in the last couple weeks. SS7 signaling. Our phones connect to back-end systems, and hackers for the last few years have figured out, we can either hack these SS7 signaling systems that interconnect the phones, or hell, We'll use somebody in a third world nation, we'll just give them money and they'll give us access. When you hear about you don't necessarily want to use two-factor authentication going as a text message to your phone, the big vulnerability there is that if the hackers have compromised one of these SS7 signaling stations, they can see the code. Now, my feeling is you want two-factor, even if it is that way, because the risk to you without it is too great. The risk of them getting in one of these stations is relatively low, but it still is a risk. SIM card hacking. If you watch most spy movies, you'll see them, they'll swap the guy's phone out of his pocket, they'll pull out his SIM, they'll pop in another SIM, or they'll take his and they'll clone it, and then they'll give him back his phone, and then they take the clone of his SIM card from his phone, and they can hear all the messages. Because the SIM card identifies whose phone it is. So that's another way of hacking it. And Bluetooth hacking. So some phones use Bluetooth. Other ones have these near connection convenience Wi-Fi's. But I've seen many demos where we could just hack any of your phones in the room because they're this close. And most people are not running special software on the phones to protect them. The interesting thing is phones are vastly harder to secure than computers. There's lots of products for computers. There aren't that many good products for phones. Here's some, these are real. These are from my phone. So the fun thing is if I had my laser pointer, first one, hey Edwin, this is the DMV. Have you claimed your $350 credit yet? Another one, these are kind of stupid. Angela Green, and there's just a link. They're counting on somebody being curious and clicking. Now, on the other end of these links, it may be that they're just going to ask for your password or try to manipulate you and trick you. But a lot of these, if you click them, they'll install software on your phone, which allows your phone's then been hacked, and they can take over. Anybody in the room not getting these kind of messages? Okay, right. Everybody's getting them. Good. You're popular. Suggestions that your cell phone may have been hacked. And I offer these very carefully because these are only slight suggestions. Frankly, if your cell phone's been hacked correctly, you're not going to know it. Anyway, your cell phone loses charge very quickly. It's a good indication something's running in the background. Your phone runs abnormally slowly. This sounds like everyday stuff. You notice strange activity on your phone, or or online accounts, like your bank statements or something. You notice unfamiliar calls or texts in your logs. This one less so, because hackers don't usually hack phones just to make phone calls. How do you stop a cell phone from being hacked? Keep your phone in your possession. You never let anybody else use it, ever. I've already dealt with a couple business owners who gave their phones to their kids. The kids went on the sites and downloaded things that were bad. Their phones got hacked, and in one case, the malware from the phone jumped to the company network. Okay, keep your phone to yourself. Encrypt your device. I would imagine 70% of the people in this room have not encrypted their phone devices. Very naughty. You want your phone to be encrypted because just by encryption, it can help keep stuff off it. And then if somebody steals the phone and doesn't know your code, it's going to be that much harder to get into it. SIM locking. This is a little more hard, a little more difficult. It takes some technical talent, but your SIM card can be locked so that if they did take it out, it would be useless without a special code. Turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Okay, that's like saying don't breathe. You become much more secure if you're not using that stuff crazily. But we realize the tool that these are, and you want to be able to use those tools. It's just like, be smart. Barbara and I were talking a moment ago about when I go to hotels. Do I use a hotspot on my phone or do I use the hotel Wi-Fi? I freaking never use the hotel Wi-Fi. I run gear on my system where I can see the hackers in hotels and what they're doing. And they're usually there. You go to a large conference, they're definitely there. Okay. You guys ever hear of black hat It's a big conference in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So when I go to that, I won't bring any technology. I might bring my watch. That's about it. I'll bring a notepad and a pen because they will hack anything. They used to be held in a different hotel that they're held now, but they hacked the hotel, and the hotel said you never took it back. So hackers, some of them get their jollies off of hacking things, but for most of them, it's for monetary reasons. That's why we have to take this stuff very seriously. And the reason I put the asterisk next to security protection is, frankly, most of the security protection you can run on your cell phone is pretty poor. It doesn't do a hell of a lot. It is what it is. So take this list, take both of these lists, the previous one, the signs that you've been hacked, and this one with a grain of salt, because it's really hard to tell if they're there. The next slide is more convenient because there are ways to get rid of them, but it's hard to keep them out, and it's hard to tell if they're there. So you want to do the precautions of keeping the phone with you, keep it encrypted, make sure you've got a good passcode on it. I was overjoyed when I got this new one because it's got the fingerprint reader. And if I lose the phone, because I've got a 20-digit code to get into it, they're not going to do it without my finger. How do you remove a hacker from your phone? Change passwords immediately. Now that won't remove the hacker from the phone, but it'll block them from getting into your stuff. Run anti-malware on the software. Again, grain of salt here. Most of the software that you can download for security reasons that detect viruses and stuff are not going to detect the newer hacker software. It's very scary. Turn off mobile and Wi-Fi. If you don't need it, don't run it. So I go to a lot of IT conferences, and if I don't need my phone to be connecting to things, I turn it off. Remove suspicious apps immediately. The fewer applications, this is true on phones and computers, the fewer applications on the device, the better. You need the applications that you must have, and those could be on there, and nothing else. Like on this laptop, I've got like Office and tools for presenting the group, but I have no data on this laptop. Yes, I've encrypted the hard drive, and it's got all the security, but it's set up such that if something happened to it, it's not the end of my world. It's a little more difficult with our phones because our phones, frankly, are a piece of ourselves. You know, we never go anywhere without them. Let's see. Inform your friends and contacts and instruct them to ignore suspicious messages from you. On social media, when I see this, it's usually an indication people were using the same passwords again and again. And at the end of this, I was going to give you guys some standard security recommendations. But if anything you own gets compromised, you owe it to your friends to let them know, because they're going to be seeing communications that they think are from you, and it's from somebody else who wants to take advantage of them as well. Barbara, stop broadcasting your personal hotspot when in public. So we were talking about when you use the personal hotspot, just in case you don't know it, most cell phones are capable of doing a little Wi-Fi. When your cell phone connects to a cell tower, it's using a cellular signal. That is harder for most people to hack. Most hackers haven't figured it out. There's a few who have. But when you've got your cell phone connected to a cell tower and you turn on the Wi-Fi on your phone and it's broadcasting a little thing using your computer to connect to it, as long as that computer is connecting to the Wi-Fi on your phone via VPN, you're pretty darn secure. But like I said in hotels, never connect to the hotel Wi-Fi yourself. If you do, make darn sure you're using a VPN. And I wouldn't let other people access my hotspot, my Wi-Fi on my cell phone, because more than likely they're not going to have the VPN set up right. And if they've been compromised, I'm not going to say they're going to hack your phone, but let's say they've been compromised and you gave them access, they can just jump over. By the way, related issue. In IT, we often say your vendor's security problems are your problems because we depend on different people. The same thing is true. If any computer that connects to your systems, their security problems or their compromises will become yours. Make sense? Restore your phone to the factory settings. Of all of this, this is the only one that's guaranteed today. I can't say about tomorrow. The hackers are going to come up with a way where they can get something that writes itself somewhere in the system, and if you format it, it still stays there. I'm not a code writer, but today, if a system gets compromised, and you format it, you'll get rid of everything, and then you can go back. But then you've lost all your data. You have to start over, and life sucks. So this sounded pretty hard. They had to go through a lot of steps to hack you, right? Right? Yeah. They had to get my SIM card, they had to get my phone, they had to do this and that to get into it. This is an example. The Pegasus Project was a group of international news companies that was formed after a friend of theirs in 2016 got. Somebody tried to hack the phone, but he had the phone encrypted. He also had the phone locked. He was running non-standard software on it. And so when they tried to hack him, he was able to tell that they were trying to hack him. And what they did is they reverse engineered the software, and they started looking back at who the organization was. The Pegasus Project identified an organization that creates software called Pegasus spyware. Pegasus spyware was written by an Israeli cyber arms company. They designed this software for military and police, but their main customers so far have been the United Arab Emirates and other Gulf states, who used it to infect the phones of over 30,000 reporters in their area, so they could track them and listen to their calls and see what they were saying about those states. The interesting thing, this software is capable of everything I said before: reading messages, tracking calls, collecting passwords, location tracking, accessing the target's device's microphone and camera, and harvesting information from any of the other apps. Scared? This one will make you scared. The way they infect a phone is to send you a text message. You don't even have to click it. This one makes me chill. It's really scary. And if this one company has it, they've probably sold it to other people who looked at the code and modified it. Your cell phone is probably already hacked. Questions? Yes, sir.
Two questions. Number one, so it's not someone like in the parking lot, you know how some of the hacking and stuff, they're looking, are they stealing a whole entire bank of numbers, and then they're able to hack all those phone numbers, or so is your carrier that they've hacked, and then is that how they're doing it?
They're doing it any way they can. Here's the thing. If I were to, thinking back 20, 30 years when I'd have a pocket full of change, pulled out all the change on the table, every coin would represent a different type of hacker that's looking for a different thing and a different way of monetizing the opportunity. Yes, there are hackers that are going to sit in airports, because I've seen them. I could go around with systems. Before I had my stroke, I used to go sit next to them. And then they'd look at what's running on my laptop. They could see I just found them. I was a wisecracking kid. Anyway, today they can kick my butt, so I don't go do that. But anyway, there are individuals that will hang out in parking lots. I helped a law firm in Los Gatos when I first started the company, where they were pretty sure someone was hacking them. And so we used our software to find them, and they were in the parking lot. That was a case where they had a specific reason for hacking a specific company. There are three main types of hackers. There are snipers. It's a group we call. They're individuals, they're highly paid, and they usually go after companies with specific information, usually intellectual property. if a sniper goes after you, forget it. They're going to get you eventually, especially as an individual. Unfortunately, I got to deal with them in the late 90s during the dot-com boom. And that was some of my first jobs defending companies. Snipers were really hard to stop. The next group is your nation states. If you think of some action movie where they've got an elite group of highly trained, well-funded military guys to go in and go and do a job, that's what the nation states are. North Korea, Russia, China. They have these groups and they go do whatever they're told to do. They're very good at what they do, but they're not doing it for monetary reasons. They're out there to cause problems or to get information. You may have heard at the beginning of the year, the solar winds hack. The customers or companies running the solar wind software were agencies of the US government and very, very big companies. The hackers were in there for almost a year before anybody noticed. There was no ransom asked for. They were in there for intellectual espionage, information gathering, and it was a nation state. The largest group by far are the hacking gangs. And if you think about a gang, you're not far off. These guys are not that smart. There's somebody at the top who's pretty well funded. Most of the people that they employ to write up the phishing stuff and send it out and entice you to click it, they're not that well educated. They're using software that the hackers didn't write, they bought. But unfortunately, those guys are looking to make a buck anywhere. And they don't know who they're hacking when they first do it. They are spray and pray. You kind of think about going out to a lake and you just start throwing lines out to catch the fish. You don't care what you're going to catch. You're just going after anything. Yeah. Once you catch one, you reel it in. And then they bring in another team. Hey, I just hacked this company for this individual. And the second team comes in and goes, okay, what's this worth? Oh, gee, this is just Dave. Yeah. Okay, we'll charge you $500 for it to take access to this stuff. Versus a company, they may say, oh, 700,000 or $1 million or more. I know of a case where a company, not mine, but a friend of mine's, had a really big building featured on their website. And the hackers were sure these guys were made of money. And so the hackers had a ransom commensurate with owning a building. And my friend who was negotiating with the hackers will negotiate, by the way. He's trying to get them down from like 70 million. And somehow it came out that they couldn't afford all that. And the hackers go, they got a building. What do you mean they can't afford it? He said, no, they lease an office in that building. They don't own the building. And the hackers, oh, okay, well then it'll just be 3 million. Yeah. They always look at what they think the target is worth. So again, 3 groups: the snipers going after intellectual property, the nation states out there to get data or cause harm, and I'm worried about them right now going after things. Sorry, is that a cue? My tongue's coming up.
That's a hacking in progress.
Yeah. But the nation states are now starting to make moves on our power systems, our water systems, right. And I think we're going to see some deaths come out of that. We had a hack about 6 months back of a water system in Florida. Happily, they weren't able to do what they wanted, but they were trying to release chemicals into the water system. Yes.
I got a question. So there doesn't seem like there's like a consumer bill of rights when it comes to apps, because clearly, I mean, if there's software or apps that we're downloading, but it's not, I mean, it's a game, but really what the bottom line is, they're just trying to see what else is on our phone. Why is there no warnings for that?
So I mean, a couple years ago.
Because it doesn't seem like Apple's making money off that from the App Store. It should be their
30%.
Responsibility. Yeah, it should be their responsibility.
And so a couple of years ago, Apple and Google both agreed to start testing all the software that's on their systems. So when you get something from Apple today, you can be fairly certain that it's been looked at and scrutinized. Is it possible that something slips past them? Absolutely. But Until a couple of years ago, there was no filtering of the stuff. And most people still have apps on their phone that got years and years ago, so you don't know, especially with kids.
Yeah.
So if your kids with a small tablet and the parents are just letting them have the run and install whatever they want, just keep quiet for a while.
Yeah.
But you know, you never know what's on there. And I saw a hand over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other add-on.
Frank, right?
Yeah. Was it diagnostics? Is there a way to do a diagnostic on your phone to see, like you on your computer, to see if there's stuff there?
Most of the consumer widely available software is pretty poor. There's advanced stuff available, but it costs a pretty bit. It's not the stuff you can get easily.
What about every time phones are updated, you know, Apple's always bugging about updating? Does that upgrade overcome the vulnerabilities or patches?
Almost always.
Okay, good.
So one of the reasons I get lists of the vulnerabilities that are being released, and when those vulnerabilities are on cell phones, I mean, Apple is usually really quick at releasing an update. We just had one a couple weeks ago where it was what we call an out of series release, because they do regular ones, but this one was in response to a vulnerability that was being exploited right then. And so Apple patched it and it did a fast push. By the way, that software I mentioned, Pegasus, it's able to attack all Android phones and all Apple phones up to a certain version, and those versions were only released this year. So all previous phones were vulnerable to that.
So if you had an older version and you took all the information from your older version and put it on the newest version,
yes,
did you take the garbage and throw it in?
This is funny because this is what it sounds like when I'm talking to my techs about migrating a client from their old server to their new server. What we like to do is do a clean install and then copy just the data. Usually the data transfer tools that you use to transfer from one phone to another are not really sophisticated enough at knowing the difference. And if they've written the hacking software right, you can transfer that as well. It's ugly. I hate telling people that there's no real solution, but my goal here is to make you aware of the risk.
Big phones. Go back to big phones.
I told you I should have kept that flip phone.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
what
true.
bothers me is when I'm on Amazon, then I'll go on Facebook, then I'll get ads. So I got, and then I'll get the same ads and they'll target me on Facebook, right? So they're obviously sharing, even LinkedIn now, they're sharing my data.
Yes.
Now that I have VPN on my phone, will that restrict
Not at all.
that? It
Not
won't
at all.
even, my IP
Because the
address-
problem, so VPN, imagine a straw going from me to you. No one else can intercept our messages because it's going through the straw. But if I'm connecting to Amazon and they're the ones selling my information so they can market to me, it doesn't matter because it's a destination. Darn it, I was going to say something else. Oh, yes. We were talking about, stroke boy here.
Pegasus.
No, Pegasus, but it was leading to something else that was really important about hacking.
Was it the hotspot?
That was a good question, but you derailed me. Really?
Let's keep moving.
I'll
look away.
No,
All right.
don't look at the man behind you. Anyway, any final questions? I know I think you all have.
Where do we start?
Where do you start?
So if I want to find out, and assuming what you've said, my phone is already been hacked, throw it away. Where do I go to?
The only way to be sure is to run some very expensive software that you're not going to have access to. Right? Even the police departments don't have. What did they do when they caught that bad guy's phone and they knew he had some data and they wanted access to it? Apple wouldn't unencrypt
They find
it. Well, what they did is they went to a cyber arms dealer that had software that gave it
To hack in.
Yeah.
But they hacked it basically.
And
They
John,
did, because there's always a way.
John, are you
But how much
referring?
money do we have?
Always away.
Yeah, John, are you referring like for your cell phone or for your
No,
business?
specifically.
Like for your business?
No, specifically my cell phone, which, based on the conclusions that I've drawn, if I go to my email through my cell phone and my cell phone, in fact, has been hacked, I can assume that my email at my business is also been hacked.
Probably.
Right. So, I mean, how do you've given me a lot of ugly stuff to know about.
Yeah.
But are there solutions that the average individual can afford?
Not an average individual. The average individual, hopefully, after this call, here's what you need to do after hearing this speech. If you want to be safe, you'll format your phone, you'll do a clean install, you'll be very selective about the software you're going to install on it. And you'll encrypt the hard drive on the phone. And you won't hand it out to other people, you'll be careful. And you won't willy-nilly click on things. I'm really freaking good at protecting companies, but when we fail, it's always because some employee clicked something and let them in. So I always think of the old black